All right, welcome back to the final discussion on Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, like my co-anchor said earlier, we will be talking about leprosy in commemoration of World Leprosy Day, scheduled to hold on the 30th of January. Okay, now World Leprosy Day is observed internationally every year on the last Sunday of January to increase the public awareness of leprosy or Hansen's disease. Now, this date was chosen by French humanitarian Raoul Follereau as a tribute to the life of Mahatma Gandhi, who had compassion for people afflicted with leprosy. Now, this year's day we observed on Sunday, January 30th, 2022. And right here in the studio, we have a doctor with us, a medical practitioner, to talk about or give us perspectives on the disease, talking about Dr. Bright Oris. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Dr. Bright.
Good morning.
I love your hair.
Thank you.
All right, so can you just give us a brief background on leprosy?
Okay, so leprosy is also called Hansen's disease. It's a bacterial infection, infectious disease caused by Mycobacterium leprae. That's a specific name of the bacteria that causes leprosy. So basically, it's the kind of bacteria that invades the skin and the peripheral nervous systems, which means distal feeling and all that. Over the years, people have had different impressions about what leprosy is, and most of them are actually very wrong. It will surprise you because people think, oh, this disease is like an affliction, some kind of diabolic disease, something that is abstract, but it's just a simple bacterial infection. That's just it.
That's really very interesting because when you talk about leprosy, when you say leprosy, we think it comes with a disability and all of that. Yeah. I never knew that it was a bacterial infection in any way.
Now, eventually, if left untreated, of course, it leads to disability. Oh. That is the highlight. When people think about leprosy, that is just what they see. They see the cases where the person did not receive treatment, right, and it led to a disability. Okay. But generally, it takes a lot for that bacterial infection to actually lead to that disability. It takes a lot. It takes years even. It's not something you get and then you just immediately start having those disability as perceived by people that don't know this.
Okay, so at what point would you say when you see a leprosy case and then you say, okay, it looks like you're heading towards the disability path?
Heading towards disability. Well, if the person is untreated, the person is not receiving treatment, that's the path. The person is going to get disabled eventually. Okay. If the person doesn't treat it, it's just like any other infection. Okay. For example, you leave your malaria untreated, you are going to even bring down more and often maybe even die from untreated malaria. Okay. So same with leprosy. If left untreated, disability happens.
Okay. All right, now this year's theme for World Leprosy Day is United for Dignity, right? Okay, why is World Leprosy Day celebrated, and what's with the theme, United for Dignity?
Yeah, because there is so much stigma that is attached to leprosy, and I would say unprovoked stigma, unnecessary stigma that is attached to leprosy. So which is why there's this awareness to actually correct this mentality that people have about leprosy, and you being united, knowing that, okay, this doesn't mean that you have to ostracize everybody with this particular bacterial infection. It has to be something that we correct as a mentality in people first. Hence the theme for this particular year's Leprosy Day.
Okay, so for normal people, what are some of the cues that will tell you, okay, this person has leprosy, just for like normal people before you actually go to the hospital? Are there certain, traits that you see?
Yeah, there are different kinds of leprosy. There's the paucibacillary, there's a multibacillary. So basically, for a layman, a lay person, there's what we call the hypopigmented lesions. Now, you see, it looks like, should I say eczema? But now it's well-defined. You see a well-defined lesion, part of the body that is hypopigmented, which means lighter than other parts of your body. So you see let's say, a round circular part of your body,
Okay.
your skin, obviously, that is well described, circular, in a way.
Does it look like
And
a
the-
ringworm in any way?
Something like that.
Oh,
Exactly. You know the way ringworm,
Yes.
circles. So something like that, but then it's hypopigmented. So if, let's say, this is your skin tone, it's lighter than that. So you see a circular area that is lighter than your skin tone, and there's reduced sensitivity in that area.
Wow.
So when you see a part like that, and then there's reduced sensitivity, it's called hypoaesthetic. So you see reduced sensitivity in that area, it will give you a hint that yes, this might be leprosy. This is possibly leprosy. So the next thing to do is to see a doctor and get tested.
Okay, now how do you, because you talked about the area being hyperpigmented, how are you able to differentiate between vitiligo and leprosy?
We do a skin biopsy, we do a skin test.
Okay.
We test it, we take a sample of the skin, we check it. There's what we call the acid-fast bacilli tests to check for that particular bacteria. There's also the PCR test to check for the bacteria. So you put that under a microscope, it'll give you a good, clear picture what exactly it is.
Okay, but is there a cure?
Of course, there's treatment for leprosy. There's cure for leprosy. It's a bacterial infection. Just like the way you get your normal bacterial infection, you take antibiotics and then you're cured. Same applies to leprosy. It's not an incurable infectious disease. And this is the mentality a lot of people have gathered over the years. That leprosy is incurable, you can't cure it and all that. No, that's inaccurate.
Okay, so how far along are we in terms of, tackling leprosy in Nigeria?
Well, I would say we're a long way because, number one, we are religious and people to start with. And we know there is this, it's an affliction from the gods, from God, and all that. So religious-wise, our development in terms of healthcare awareness, so these are the setbacks I think we have as Nigerians, dealing with this particular stigma of leprosy.
Okay.
Okay, for those who have a leprosy, seeing that it actually spreads, is it okay for them to share stuff, or share a house, or live in the same space, or should once someone is diagnosed with leprosy, should that person be taken to a secluded place?
There's this concept too, and it's a misconception that leprosy is highly contagious. Leprosy is not highly contagious. It does not spread fast.
Okay.
Oh.
It's not highly contagious, it doesn't spread fast. Actually, 95% of people who come in contact with leprosy, the bacteria, do not actually develop the disease.
Okay. What's that?
95% of people.
Okay.
So you could come, 100 people could come in contact with Mycobacterium leprae, the bacteria that causes leprosy, and only 5% of that would actually go on to develop the disease.
Why that 5%?
Because of immunity, a lot of other factors as well.
Okay.
Immunity being the topmost. Because people that are have low immune system, for example, HIV patients, patients on chemotherapy. So basically, the low immune system, your body fights these things off by itself. Your body normally fights off bacteria.
Okay.
So people with low immune system, low immunity, they stand higher risk of actually contacting and developing the disease.
Okay, so what would you say, how far along are we in terms of advocacy about the leprosy disease here in Nigeria? Are we doing enough, to actually talk to people about what leprosy is?
I think we're doing as much as we can as Nigerians. I think why it's a lot more difficult because even the elites, even the learned people, do not actually still know this. So how much more those that are unlearned? It will surprise you to know that there are quite a lot of learned people, I mean people with degrees, that still have these misconceptions about leprosy. How much more people that not even learned, that don't follow news outlets, media, updates on information that's going around the world. How about those people? And we know Nigeria is a country that is largely, I will use the word uneducated, not learned. I mean formal education. So these are the setbacks. So are we a long way? Yes, we're a long way. But are we doing stuff to put measures in place to increase and improve the awareness about leprosy? Yes, I think we are. I actually saw an advert on, I think, YouTube talking about the World Leprosy Day, and then it was a cartoon used in local language, you know. So I think that's a good step.
Okay, now because there was a story on Trust TV on a village, you know, where there are lots of lepers there, where they live and everything. It's like they've been cut off from community, from other communities and all that. And you talked about, you know, the leprosy or the disability, or you talked about it not spreading as fast as it should, or how do I put it? You talked about it not spreading as fast as it should, you know, before it becomes a disability. How can people prevent it from becoming a disability? Treatment. Because, and you talked about Nigeria, you know, still being far behind when it comes to, you know, being knowledgeable about, you know, leprosy and everything that entails it, you know. Okay, what about going into these communities, especially talking about rural areas where it's more prevalent?
Okay, now there's something that happens, especially these communities say there's a village that's filled with leprous people and all that. Because when they developed this disease and when they started showing the disabilities because of not receiving treatment, they developed these disabilities, which is amputation, loss of limb and all that. And you see the Lyonnais facet, where you see that their face is looking as if it's disfigured, there are lesions in the face and all that. So they get ostracized. And because they're ostracized, they have to find a way to create a small community of their own, which is why they now gather together in one particular place. You see them always looking as if they flock together, sort of. But that should not have happened in the first place if this awareness about the disease was in place. So people like this, they need treatment, because the moment they start getting treatments, they stop being infectious.
But is the treatment for leprosy expensive?
I think the treatment of leprosy is actually free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It's free. If you reach out to the local primary care center, treatment is free. Treatment of leprosy is not, you don't pay for it.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program. We've been speaking with Dr. Bright Oris, a medical doctor, and we hope to have you next time on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you much.
Well, with this, we've come to the end of Daybreak for today. It's been quite interesting. Remember, leprosy is not contagious.
It is not. All right. It is. It's not as contagious as people you know paint it to be, but it is contagious. But then it doesn't mean that those who have a leprosy should be ostracized or stigmatized. So then there's a cure for it, and most of the medication is actually free. All right. I'm Dashan Husseina Osman. Thank you so much for staying tuned on Daybreak on Trust TV from beginning to end. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time.
Bye.